So our first presenter today is Brenda Boyd. Excuse me. Brenda joined Quality Matters in May 2011 and currently serves as Vice President, Program Services. She provides leadership for the Professional Development, Quality Assurance Department, and K-12 departments, and is responsible for the regular updating of the QM Higher Education Rubrics. Brenda has served QM in several capacities since 2004. During the grant-funded period, she served on the QM Advisory Board and helped found the Ohio Quality Matters Consortium in 2007, serving as a statewide system QM certified face-to-face facilitator, that's a mouthful, to bring QM to institutions throughout the state of Ohio. Brenda served on the Rubric Review Committee for the 2011 to 13 edition of the QM Rubric and was co-chair of the QM Higher Education Rubric Committee for the 5th, 6th, and 7th editions. Brenda worked with colleges and universities for 11 years before joining QM. She has supported faculty in moving their on-ground courses online and has led faculty learning communities on topics ranging from using technology in the classroom to using virtual worlds for teaching and learning. She holds an MS in Education with a specialization in instructional design for online learning from Capella University and a BFA from the University of Dayton. So whenever you are ready, Brenda, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, maybe, and you can share yours. I can't hear you, Brenda.
Sounds muted.
There you
now
are.
We really have a virtual conference because you've had the first, you need to unmute. So I'd like to just thank Sue for inviting me to participate in today's event. It's wonderful to be able to be with all of you from all over the place, from Hawaii to Tennessee and to Florida, where I am also located. So Sue asked me to talk today about the changes to the rubric for that we launched last year on July 5th to the 7th edition. And I have some, and I also, in the spirit of the theme of today's conference, we are going to look at the standards through an AI lens. So, Sue introduced me already. I live in Seminole, Florida, and in the winter, and I live in Dayton, Ohio in the summer. So I get the best of both worlds because of being a remote first organization at Quality Matters. And it's been the honor of my career to co-chair the QM Rubric revision, which happens with the aid of the community. So I'd like to just dive right into the changes that were made rather than bogging us down in too much process information, but because I know we really want to get to that artificial intelligence conversation. So we've made some overall changes. How many of you have taken the rubric update? Just give me a yes or a thumbs up in the, give me a yes in the chat or a thumbs up that you've completed the rubric update that was offered for free for, I see lots of thumbs going up, great. We're really happy to offer that for free for the first 6 months. And so you might have already learned a lot of this in the rubric update. So just a little refresher for you this morning. So you can now review synchronous courses with the QM rubric if there is a significant online component present for that synchronous course. And then we also have migrated the continuing education standards into the continuing education annotations into the higher education rubric. So the 7th edition may be used to review both credit-bearing and non-credit-bearing courses. And another major highlight was the focus this time on inclusion and belonging to integrate that importance of students recognizing that they belong in the course to aid in student persistence. So we have a new, so those new modalities and types are available to be reviewed in the new edition. And so that is something to bear in mind. We have a new course format chart for higher education course reviews. It relies less on percentages and more on course structure. How is it structured, and are there face-to-face meetings? Are there virtual meetings? Because sometimes a hybrid course can be virtual and part asynchronous, and both online. So gone are the days of we had neat definitions for all the modalities, and WCET is doing some good work on trying to help parse that across our institutions, because we all have different names for hybrid and these different emerging modalities. So if you're going to review a synchronous course or a hybrid course, there are call outs in all the standards and the annotations for how to apply the standard to that modality. The whole annotation still applies, but there may be some caveats for, say, a self-paced continuing education course, or there may be some special instructions to reviewers for how to review a course for that standard that is a hybrid course. So the focus, though, is on the evidence. So remember, when you're looking at a course, you're looking at the course and you're looking at the rubric, and you're looking for evidence in the course that aligns with what the standard's looking for. So the standard is the standard and annotations are the authority in the course review, and you're looking to see how does that course meet, what is the evidence that confirms that that standard is met. And so if you're doing something like a synchronous class and you're recording it and you're uploading it into your learning management system, that is great, because you have an opportunity to say, okay, or you have lecture notes that you've uploaded into your LMS. So you have options. There's no one way to do this, as is the case across the rubric. There's many ways to meet the standards. So the continuing education courses, we've included those call outs for those. And if there is a high flex course or a multimodal course, QM can review the asynchronous session of that course. It's still not possible to do a face-to-face review by a QM review team that's external, right? They would have to come to every session of the course. So we are looking at just that asynchronous online version. That's the version that would be reviewed if you do high flex. So we changed some of our language in the rubric to make it more streamlined. We have been using the language of blended, but we follow the field. So the field has gone to hybrid. So we followed and said, okay, we'll call everything that's like a blend of online and face-to-face, or online asynchronous and online synchronous. We'll call all of those modalities hybrid. And we used to say objectives or competencies, and we said that in the rubric everywhere we had objectives. We also said or competencies, because we have annotations in the rubric for competency-based courses. Those annotations are still there. We just streamline that language to just call them objectives. And you may call them something else at your institution. You may call them outcomes, and that's okay, but it explains this in the annotations for specific review standard 2.1. So one of the other big changes we made was activities and assessments. It wasn't a huge change. It was more of like a nuance or a clarification between these two, because we have so many questions about the difference between an assessment and an activity. And let me say We are not trying to redefine the field of instructional design. What we are saying is, for the purposes of course reviewing, an activity allows for practice. It helps the learner prepare to be successful in the assessment. And the assessments actually measure the learning objective. So there's a little nuance there, and it requires our reviewers to use some critical thinking to think about, okay, is this an activity that's helping learners prepare for an assessment, or is this an assessment that's measuring a learning objective? So it's an opportunity for us to kind of clarify the difference between an assessment and an activity, because we did get a lot of questions about this. And so this is a little bit more on that, just allowing for practice. If you think about it, it's not graded versus non-graded. It could be something for a grade, but it allows for practice. So if you're doing a multi-part assignment or writing a paper in stages, some of those things are going to be turned in. They're going to get feedback. They're going to get some input, or they're going to get a check mark or something, to allow for practice where they can work with that new information in low stakes ways, so that they have an opportunity to fail and learn. So so when you look at General Standard 5 about learning activities and assessments, you should also be looking at 3.5, because that standard is about learners having multiple opportunities to practice their learning and get feedback in a timely manner. And then assessments they're going to measure incremental or formative assessment, and then more full or summative assessment for the achievement of the learning objectives. So there's an opportunity there for you to kind of differentiate between assessments and activities. And so we really wanted to drive this home, because this is really related to specific review standards under General Standard 3 for assessments measuring the learning objectives. That's 3.1. And then 5.1 is the learning activities provide opportunities to practice new skills, provide reinforcement, and interact with the course content. And this might include like discussion posts or answering questions for reading comprehension, practice quizzes, and they may not be graded. So there's not really hard and fast rules with this. That was one of the big questions that came up in the rubric update. And then, I mean, they're hard and fast to the fact that, like, you have to analyze it. You can't just say, well, say you have an activity that does concrete examples are really helpful in determining. So if you have a question about, is it an assessment or an activity, if you can give the whole story to QM when you enter a ticket, that's really helpful. And so there's also this connection between 4.1 and 5.1. 4.1 is instructional materials, provide learners with the instructional materials that will help them achieve the learning objectives. And so when you're looking at content provided to learners, like read chapter 6, that's an instructional material. That is not a learning activity, because there's not an opportunity for practice. What they do with that instructional material might be a learning activity. So we wanted to clarify that one as well, because there was a little bit of confusion around that. Reading a chapter may be contributing to their learning, right? Like, it's definitely is, they're getting that groundwork, they're getting that information, but that's an interaction with the content. And so that is also part of learning activities when you look at 5.2. So we also made some changes to the annotations. We emphasize instructions to reviewers by beginning with reviewers in bold, to call out, here's something to pay attention to in the annotation. There's more information about when a specific review standard is met, and we updated the examples. We provided some additional context, and we also did those synchronous and continuing ed call outs, and we focused on belonging and creating community. And then We did make some changes to the scoring. The total possible points is now 101 possible points. To meet expectations, you have to earn 85% of the 101 points, which is 86 points. I think there's a question in the Q&A that I'll go ahead and answer. And can we assess publisher-provided activities that are incorporated in the course? Yes, publisher-provided materials that are in a course that goes through a QM course review must be reviewed. So yes, you can, and we encourage you to go back to your publishers and let them know that the course is being reviewed by Quality Matters and will need to you'll need to have access to it. So there's some ancillary supports around course review. One is the course worksheet, which is filled out generally by the instructor or the course representative. For our course worksheet now, course maps are now required. So you'll have to submit a course map with your official course review application. And that is for the purpose of helping the review team with understanding where you will find the different components. And it also gives the course representative the opportunity to take a look at their course alignment by creating a course map. The course format chart, that again has been revamped to really focus on that evidence to determine which structure you're using for your course design. And that helps define the modality. The glossary has been updated with some new definitions. I'm sorry, new terms, some updated definitions. We didn't change the definitions of many things. So we did, we wanted to make sure that that alignment map was included. We found it very helpful to, we find it very helpful to have the alignment maps for the review team. And it's not, they're using that as a tool. They're still reviewing the course for alignment in the course itself. And the alignment maps need to include all 6 of the components that address alignment. So the learning objectives at the course and module level, the assessments, the instructional materials, the activities, and the course technologies. There should be a clear connection. And we don't have, many people have asked us for an example of a course map. And we have we're collecting some course maps as we are getting some good ones in, but we don't want to say like, here's the course map. However, we have sent many people to coursemapguide.com. This was a website created by a couple of instructional designers in California. And it is a good starting point. And I see Gerald has a question about QM. Does QM have any agreements with publishers? We've had some publishers who seem to pretend they do not know who or what QM is. Do you have a list of providers who've agreed to work with QM standards? We do have some higher education publishers who are members of Quality Matters. We also work, but we primarily in the publishing world, we work a lot more with K-12 publishers. So we do have, you can go out on our website. I think that they are listed on our membership list, which I think is at the bottom of the website. You can look for who's a member of Quality Matters. I'll try and find that link for you, Gerald. Good question. So to aid you in creating, thank you, Beth and Sue, for putting that in the chat, for mapping your course. That's it. The website really does a nice job of walking you through like why you should map, and it's a helpful resource to share. And so QM, we see a need for this, right, for creating course alignment maps. And so we created a new workshop that's a virtual workshop or face-to-face. It's a half-day workshop, and we do offer some public virtual sessions, and you can check our schedule for that. And we can do this as a dedicated session for your campus. If you're preparing to do a lot of internal reviews or you're planning to do a lot of official reviews, it may be a worthwhile afternoon or morning for you. And we do have open seats in our PD schedule, and yes, I will be sharing these slides with Stu with the links. So we wanted to just also mention that the QM design guide has been updated. We created a design guide for everyone during the pandemic. In 2020, we created, we called it the Bridge to Quality. And that was, we were bridging from emergency remote instruction to how do we bridge to quality online learning. And this is a guide that is free and available on the QM website, where you can go, it walks you through designing a course. So if you have limited instructional design resources at your campus or no instructional design resources at your campus, the Bridge to Quality online course design guide can be very helpful for walking through how do you design a course and what are all of the things that you need to take into consideration. And it is, we created it on the 6th edition, and now it's freely available for the 7th edition. You just have to enter your name and your email, and that's it. There's a link here in the chat that I'll be sure to get for you. Let me grab that and pop that in here for you. So if you want to take a look at the bridge guide. Okay, so let's take a look at the standards and how they were changed from 6th to 7th edition. And then we're going to look at them through an AI lens. And this was super fun for me because I spent so much time working on the standards with the Rubric Committee and with my co-chair, Bethany Semenich, our VP of Innovation and Research. And we are so excited about the changes to the standards. So in General Standard 1, we have annotations now for synchronous, competency-based, continuing ed, changes to language, and a few of the specific review standards. The focus here changed to really creating community and making learners feel like they belong in your course. And that is a lot of that first day stuff where they're, you know, if you're in a face-to-face classroom, it's the first day, but if you're online, it's all of that orientation, how, what do I need to know? What are the policies? What are the rules? Where do I go first? All of that fun stuff in General Standard 1. So when you think about this through an AI lens, Specific Review Standard 1.4 is about course and institutional policies. What is the institution's or instructor's policy on use of AI for coursework? That's one thing that's not in the rubric that you may want to consider. We were going to press with the QM rubric right when AI just burst on the scene. So these annotations are not in your rubric workbook, but we are considering adding, you know, bringing a leaflet or putting some considerations out on the website for AI. So Specific Review Standard 1.5 looks at the minimum technical requirements for the course. So do your learners need to acquire an AI, generative AI tool like ChatGPT, or is there another specific AI tool, or are you building a LLM together? So do they need to have that kind of tool that needs to be added to the course? And then Specific Review Standard 1.6 is about technical skills and digital information literacy skills. Do learners need to know how to use or how to critique AI or generative AI created materials? So this can be part of digital literacy. Another thought is around Specific Review Standard 1.8, where the instructor writes their introduction. They might use an AI generated image of themselves, or one that represents their interests professionally and personally. So there's been some interesting AI images out there. We've all seen them with, you know, 6 and 8 fingers and so forth. So, but that can be kind of fun. So there's some different ways that just letting learners know up front what they need. Okay, and then learning objectives, we changed that language, as I mentioned. We have new examples in the Specific Review Standard 2.2 annotation for module level learning objectives. And then 2.4 was added added assessments. So the connection is made clear. Doesn't have to be in any specific way. There's also new examples for the 2.5 annotation. So the learning objectives, these are some ideas for design. So AI might be used to help make learning objectives measurable. So if you put in your learning objective and ask generative AI to make it measurable, that's one way you can use it from a design perspective. AI might be used to help with mapping activities and assessments. We think this is really how AI can shine, is to help generate some of those ideas to help with your measurable learning objective. What are some activities that can help if you need some help with brainstorming? Specific Review Standard 2.5 is about the level of the course, and AI might help infer that level of the course if you enter your course level learning objectives to help figure out, like, are these at the right level? General Standard 3 is about assessment and measurement. This addresses, we now address alternative grading approaches in the rubric. We always were welcome to any kind of grading approach, but now we specifically say if you have an alternative grading approach, that's included in 3.2. And Specific Review Standard 3.5 connects the types and the timing of assessment with tracking and timely feedback. So making sure that learners have those opportunities to practice, to get the feedback on it. And then new to Standard 3 is Specific Review Standard 3.6, which is the assessments provide guidance to the learner about how to uphold academic integrity. So this is the way that we really have asked we're giving another opportunity to don't just put it in your policy, but let learners know, can you collaborate on this project? Can you use a calculator in this exam? Let learners know where those boundaries are for that particular assessment. That's what this is all about. And so General Standard 3, when you think about this through an AI lens, 3.1 might help with designing assessments that actually measure the learning objectives. So if you're having trouble coming up with an idea, that's one way to use AI. And then when you think about, if we switch gears back to 3.2 is about the grading policy. So if we look at 3.2 through the grading policy might address artificial intelligence use in assignments. So you may be telling your learners, well, you are not allowed to use AI to answer these questions, or you can use AI to answer these questions, but you have to say that you used it and critique what it said. So there may be some different ways for grading to be incorporated with AI. Specific Review Standard 3.6 is all about, sharing with those learners what is and is not allowed. So academic integrity and assessments may include AI acceptable use. So you may say, well, you can use AI to help you come up with some ideas, but the writing has to be your own. So you can use different ways. I think Elaine has got a question for everybody else about AI sites that are recommended. There are other AI tools out there. Google Gemini was just launched. There's some folks I follow, and I'm sure there'll be lots more sharing today about that. So I'm sure you'll be, if you're able to stick around and hear more about AI tools that folks are using. So instructional materials, publisher materials are included in the review. So we do need to have access to those. The publisher should make changes to them if asked. Specific Review Standard 4.4, this is about the materials being current. And so the current thinking goes now beyond just the publication date. So it wouldn't be just anything published in the last 10 years. However, it would include things like, are there works that are foundational to the discipline? So those would also be included as current because they are foundational to discipline. So, and then 4.5 is about variety of instructional materials in the course. So we've always said, you need to have variety of materials. This is a kind of new, you've always been able to add videos and add hyperlinks and images, and there's two new types of variety, because there's a variety of different perspectives. So representing different perspectives, and then also representing different representations. Do your course materials reflect the learners who are taking your course? And so there are two new types, and you have to have at least one of these types of variety in your course. So instructional materials through an AI lens, 4.1, AI might recommend aligned materials, but you probably don't need much help with that as experts in your field, but that was one thought. Specific review standard 4.3, if AI is used in the course design, citations are provided. And don't forget, AI can even help write those citations. Like, can you cite that for me, please? So thank you, Louise. Appreciate you sharing that. Very timely. How to cite it, because if there's a way for us to, call it out, yes, I've used AI, here's where it is. So moving into standard 5, the changes that we made were in 5.1, clarification between assessments and activities. So we tried to, explain that you're looking for things that help the learner with the assessment, help them learn to prepare for assessment. Specific review standard 5.3 is it's about substantive interaction at regular intervals. So there are some rules in the United States of America for regular and substantive interaction. The QM rubric supports this through the instructor's plan for substantive interaction at regular intervals. So how and when are you going to have meaningful interactions with your learners regularly throughout the course? Specific review standard 5.4 recognizes the different types of interactions can be culturally impacted. So it includes some more of that considerations for belonging and helping learners feel like they should be in the course. They should be recognized as a diverse group of learners coming from many different cultures, and how do you make them all feel included? And so figuring out how to design your interactions so that all of your learners have a seat at that table. Yep, always double check. That's great advice in the chat. So general standard 5 through an AI lens. 5.1, AI might help you with some different activities to help the learners achieve objectives from a design point of view. If you think about, what is it that I need to help? I have this assessment already. I have my learning objectives, but how do I help my learners bridge that gap? AI may be able to help you. So through a design perspective. 5.4 is about learner interaction requirements. This is often like how to participate in the discussion forums. However, you may want to point out to learners that they can't use AI to generate their conversation, or they can, and then they can critique that particular AI generated response. So this is AI might be, something that learners can use for idea generation. However, you may want them to write their own in their postings or their responses in their own words. Course technology is general standard 6. In general standard 6, 6.3 and specific review standard 6.3, the change was made to recognize a variety of aligned aligned technologies. The subcommittee here felt that even though you may be using a lot of different technologies, they should be aligned and supporting the learners with alignment. So that's a new change for 6.3. And then under 6.4, we included webcams and their usage for synchronous courses, because there has just been such an explosion in virtual teaching and learning that the efficacy of having people turn on their cameras versus not turn on their cameras, and enabling some space and grace there for learners to turn their cameras off. And then when we think about course technology for 6.5, helping learners protect their data and privacy. If you're using AI, please read the terms and help your learners understand what those terms are, that what they're entering into their LLM may be used for other people. So is it going to be using their inputs? So that's something to keep in mind in the spirit of 6.5 to help learners protect their data and their privacy. Moving into 7.1, this addresses the digital divide and how learners can access free or low-cost resources for connectivity and for hardware or software needs. So this is that was new for 7.1 because many institutions had to provide learners with some laptops and still are providing students with laptops or tablets to enable them to continue their educations. And so when we think about 7.1 through an AI lens, when we're thinking about supporting learners, does your support desk or your help desk, can your technical support help your learners if they have questions about how to use AI? And that's echoed as well in 7.3. Are your academic supports that you provide at your institution, are they able to help learners leverage artificial intelligence? So these are a couple of places that you may consider thinking through. How can AI really be leveraged in your academic supports? Rather, I was just reading an article in the Washington Post yesterday about how AI, we thought that everyone's cheating from AI, but it's really, they said it's at an all-time low. So it's our, we've had a lot of panic about that in higher education, but I think what we're finding is learners are actually using AI to help them think things through. So General Standard 8 is all about accessibility and usability. 8.1 is one of those usability standards. This was updated for strategies for ease of use, for navigating through the course. 8.2 is another usability and usability standard that is also connected to accessibility, where you're looking at the readability of the course. And there's two kinds of readability in 8.2. One is the presentation. So this is like not using crazy fonts throughout that are difficult to read or not everybody has on their computer, or using a yellow font on a white background, which I'm sure no one's doing that anymore. So the other is content, where you're using readability of the content. Is it free of grammatical errors? Is it free of does it make sense? Is it not overly jargony? So there's two kinds of readability covered in 8.2 now. And then specific review standard 8.3 solely focuses now on text accessibility, and that is an essential standard. We also changed 8.4 to just being about image accessibility, ensuring that images are accessible separate. Those used to be combined. So into one standard 8.3 and 8.4, we broke them into two. And then 8.5 is now about video and audio accessibility. So anytime you have a speaker, do you have captions? Are there transcripts provided for audio as well? And then 8.6 focuses on ease of use of multimedia, with the usability standard. And then specific review standard 8.7 is about VPATs, but there was a point change there, points declined, because the VPAT is self-reported by the EdTech tool creators. So we'll still have to do our due diligence through procurement generally for ensuring that our tools that we are purchasing as institutions are accessible. So I want to talk about 8.3 and how might you apply the AI to General Standard 8? How might you use that? And so if you have some ideas, please open your mic, raise your hand, pop an idea into the chat. You may already be using AI in this way.
Well, wouldn't just a thought, just basically maybe having for faculty information through the accessibility office where AI use is acceptable for specific students with specific disabilities.
Oh, that's a great idea, Sonia. I haven't thought about that one.
Yeah, because I mean, that would leverage, in that respect, it's like every other assistive technology, it would leverage the playing field maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Vi Rajagopalan. I hope you can hear me.
Hi, bye.
Hi. I think the learners, the students, should also know more about AI and the appropriate, use of it in a socially appropriate way. A lot of times there's misinformation in there based on what was put in there. And so it's a biased kind of thing. So I'm glad when you said the findings indicate that most people are using it to organize their thoughts or whatever. Because if you just, I can see sometimes when somebody copies and pastes things because certain words keep appearing over and over again. Nuance is one and delves is another one. But again, I think introducing AI as a course is important because we failed that with plagiarism. And a lot of our students are learning it as they make the mistakes. AI should be part of, either college, what do they call it? The college course that everybody has to take.
Mm-hmm.
I think that way we are a little bit ahead of AI, although it's developing in rapid ways.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think, when we talk about digital literacy skills in standard 1.5, that's what we're talking about too, right? It's like, what do they need to know and be able to do using AI?
And the
Brand,
responsible way of using it, because
right.
already
Mm-hmm.
people are publishing about how biased the information is,
Mm-hmm.
socially not equal. So
Right.
I know I don't want to get into all the political aspects of it, but for the sake of facts, when you're looking at research findings, you have to really think about it because
Mm-hmm.
I know people who are in biotech area and some of the research that's done by a smaller group of people is not included there. So just a thought. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but I think we should be ahead of AI in terms of use and use it appropriately. I think students are writing better. I know I'm writing the instructions better.
That's great. Yeah, ethical use of and policy is, I think, one of the things that is top of mind for many institutional leaders and for all of us. Really, it should be. What are the ethical uses of AI? And there are some free workshops out there. I know D2L has one on ethical use of AI, and that's a free one too. Brandy posted a good idea in the chat. You could use AI to help generate quality alt text for images. And that, learning how to use that is, I think, something that we're all interested in doing at this point too. Is anyone using tools like Ally or You Do It? Are you using any of those types of tools that actually are AI to check for accessibility? Is anyone? Oh, You Do It. Yeah. Okay, great. A couple of you guys are using You Do It. Yeah. So, yeah, and supporting students who are English ESL students. Yes, English as a second language or multilingual learners. Right. Yeah. So that's great having them. You Do It, and that tool I know has been really helpful for identifying issues as well as Ally. Yeah, staying ahead of tech can be difficult in mandatory courses through going through curriculum review. It's a good point, Jackie, that, yeah, higher education will have to speed things up because AI is going to really change the game across the board as it advances. So,
Disability Support Services is Kathy. Hi.
hi, Kathy.
Okay.
I'm sorry, did you have a question or comment? Okay, Kathy muted herself again, so maybe not. Yeah, the new higher ed movement. Yes, it is. So I know there's a lot of exciting sessions today, and Sue, I'm not sure where we are on time, but I wanted to open up the floor if there's any other questions or comments, or if we need to wrap it up, I'm okay with that too, Sue. So,
Well, we're about 10 minutes behind, actually about 15 minutes behind schedule,
oh,
but
I'm so
that's
sorry.
okay. That's okay because, you know, Paula's here and ready to go. So if you're okay, I am going to have us take a quick, and I do mean quick, we're going to make a 5-minute break. And I'm going to put the timer on the screen and start it now. Thank you so much, Brenda, for doing this for us. And if you have any questions for Brenda, you know, could you put your email in the chat for folks? And that way
Absolutely.
then they can reach out to you. I'm going to start the timer and Paula will get started in 5 minutes, promise.
Thank you for indulging me. I appreciate it, everybody.
Oh, it was good stuff.